Welcome back to Boni's Life, where we dissect the markets with surgical precision and leave the fluff for the amateurs. I'm Boni, and this week we're analyzing a market that's showing fascinating technical formations across multiple assets. Bitcoin recently touched a new all-time high. Altcoins are displaying divergent strength patterns, and institutional capital continues to reshape market dynamics. Today's episode is specifically designed for advanced traders looking to position themselves optimally for the coming week. We'll start with a technical breakdown of last week's price action, examine the global events shaping market sentiment, integrate expert perspectives from leading analysts and institutions, and conclude with actionable trading strategies tailored for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Cardano, XRP, SUI, WorldCoin, and TON. Let's dive straight into the technical analysis. The overall cryptocurrency market capitalization currently stands at approximately $3.5 trillion, with mixed performance across the board. Let's examine our key assets through multiple technical lenses. Bitcoin's recent push to a new all-time high near $109,600 represents a critical technical development. The price action formed what analysts at Swissblock Technologies have confirmed is not a bearish divergence despite some market concerns. What's particularly noteworthy is the imminent golden cross formation on the daily chart. Historically, a powerful bullish signal. The 20-day EMA at $101,958 serves as our primary support level, while the recent high at $109,588 represents immediate resistance. Volume profile analysis shows significant accumulation occurring at these elevated levels, contradicting typical distribution patterns we'd expect at all-time highs. This suggests institutional capital continues to build positions despite retail concerns about valuation. Ethereum presents a more nuanced technical picture, currently battling to establish support above the psychologically important $2,550 level. The upsloping 20-day EMA at $2,334 and RSI positioning near overbought territory indicate buyers maintain control of the medium-term trend. However, the critical resistance at $2,739 has repeatedly rejected advances, creating a compression pattern that typically resolves with increased volatility. Ethereum's gas fees have stabilized at lower levels, suggesting reduced network congestion, historically a precursor to renewed price discovery phases. Solana's technical structure shows remarkable resilience, with buyers aggressively defending the 20-day EMA at $164. The price action has formed a bull flag consolidation after the previous upleg, with $185 representing the key breakout level. Volume has been declining during this consolidation, a classic sign of a continuation pattern rather than reversal. Solana's relative strength versus Ethereum has been improving, suggesting potential outperformance if the broader market maintains its bullish bias. Cardano has maintained position above the neckline of an inverse head and shoulders pattern, one of the most reliable bullish formations in technical analysis. The 20-day EMA at 74 cents has flattened while the RSI remains in positive territory, indicating a neutral to slightly bullish bias. The key resistance at 86 cents represents the trigger point for a potential move toward the measured target at $1.01. Weekend price action showed concerning weakness, with Cardano among several altcoins experiencing a 7% decline, something traders should factor into position sizing decisions. XRP continues to exhibit a battleground technical structure, with neither bulls nor bears establishing clear control. The price has been oscillating around the 20-day EMA at $2.35 with the broader trading range between $2 and $2.65 containing most price action. This compression typically precedes a significant directional move, with the resolution direction often determining the medium-term trend. The recent launch of the first US XRP futures ETF represents a fundamental development that could influence technical patterns in the coming weeks. SUI's technical structure remains constructive despite the recent security incident affecting its ecosystem. Price has maintained support at the 20-day EMA of $3.73, with the upsloping EMA and positive RSI territory confirming buyer control of the trend. The immediate resistance at $4.25 represents the key level to monitor, with a breakout potentially triggering acceleration toward the $5 level. Both WorldCoin and TON present emerging technical patterns that warrant attention from traders seeking alpha beyond the established large caps. WorldCoin's correlation with AI sector tokens has been strengthening, while TON's technical structure suggests accumulation occurring at current levels. Let's shift our focus to the macro landscape and examine how global events are reshaping market dynamics. The most significant market-moving event last week came from an unexpected source: former President Trump's comments regarding potential tariffs on European Union imports. This triggered a swift 4% decline in Bitcoin, liquidating over $300 million in leveraged positions. This reaction highlights the market's continued sensitivity to macro trade policy, despite the narrative of Bitcoin as a hedge against traditional market turbulence. Advanced traders should note this correlation remains stronger than many analysts acknowledge. The regulatory landscape continues to evolve in ways that could significantly impact our focus assets. Texas is moving closer to establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve following successful passage of enabling legislation through the State House. This represents a fascinating development in the institutionalization of Bitcoin, potentially creating additional demand from public sector entities beyond the private institutional adoption we've witnessed. The incoming SEC leadership is widely expected to view Solana ETF applications more favorably than the current administration, a development that could dramatically alter Solana's market dynamics if approved. Perhaps the most underreported development is the initiative by major US banks to jointly launch a stablecoin. This represents a significant shift in traditional finance's approach to blockchain technology and could accelerate institutional adoption across our focus assets. Additionally, several major traditional finance institutions are actively pursuing tokenization efforts specifically on Solana, highlighting the network's growing institutional credibility despite retail focus on other Layer 1 alternatives. ETF flows continue to provide strong tailwinds for Bitcoin, with consistent inflows supporting the recent price appreciation. This represents a structural change in market dynamics that advanced traders must incorporate into their analysis frameworks. Two significant security incidents warrant attention. The $400 million Coinbase breach has raised broader concerns about exchange security, while the $223 million hack of SUI's largest liquidity provider has specifically impacted sentiment around the SUI ecosystem. These events serve as important reminders that operational security remains a critical consideration in portfolio construction, particularly for assets with concentrated liquidity providers. Current sentiment metrics present a mixed picture. The Fear and Greed Index stands at 67, firmly in greed territory, while the altcoin index reads just 2300s, suggesting potential for altcoin outperformance if historical patterns hold. We're observing a clear rotation into major altcoins as Bitcoin consolidates near record highs, a typical pattern following Bitcoin's strength. Interestingly, aggressive shorting continues despite Bitcoin's record prices, creating potential for short squeeze dynamics if upward momentum resumes. Let's integrate perspectives from leading analysts and institutions to provide additional context for our analysis. Analysts at Cointelegraph have identified a potential surge to $130,000 for Bitcoin in the near term, with year-end targets extending to $200,000 if current momentum continues. This aligns with Swissblock Technologies' on-chain analysis, showing continued accumulation rather than distribution at current levels. For Ethereum, institutional research increasingly focuses on the $3,000 level as the next major psychological barrier, with options market positioning suggesting significant resistance at this level. Solana has received particularly bullish commentary from institutional analysts, with multiple reports highlighting the network's growing adoption for institutional tokenization initiatives. As one Goldman Sachs analyst noted off the record, Solana's technical capabilities make it increasingly attractive for institutional use cases, regardless of retail sentiment. XRP analysis from trading desks suggests potential for significant upside, with some analysts projecting targets as high as $8 if the current market structure resolves bullishly. The successful launch of XRP futures ETF trading has been cited as a potential catalyst for institutional participation. For Carano, developer metrics rather than price action have dominated institutional commentary, with network activity reaching all-time highs despite the recent price consolidation. This divergence between on-chain activity and price action often precedes significant market moves. SAWI has attracted attention for its unusual performance in capital inflows, outpacing more established assets like XRP and Cardano in recent weeks, according to CoinShares data. This suggests growing institutional interest despite the recent security incident. WildCoin continues to benefit from its association with Sam Altman, with the recent $135 million token sale to a 16Z and Bain Capital Crypto, highlighting strong institutional backing. As one Andreessen Horowitz partner commented, the intersection of AI and blockchain represents one of the most compelling investment theses in the space. TON has received less institutional coverage but continues to build momentum as an emerging Layer 1 protocol with unique technical characteristics that differentiate it from competitors. Now, let's translate our analysis into actionable trading strategies for the coming week. For Bitcoin, maintain long positions with stops below the 20-day EMA at $101,958. Consider adding to positions on successful retests of $109,588 as support, with partial profit taking at $120,000 and trailing stops for remaining positions targeting $130,000. Advanced traders should monitor ETF inflow volumes as a leading indicator for price movement and watch for potential bull flag formation after the recent all-time high, a pattern that typically resolves with 15 to 20% upside. For Ethereum, establish positions with tight stops below $2,450. Consider aggressive entries on breakout above $2,739 with volume confirmation, or more conservative entries on pullbacks to the 2,500 support zone. Implement tiered profit taking at $2,800, $2,900, and $3,000. The ETH-BTC ratio provides valuable insight into relative strength and should be monitored for divergence from historical patterns. Options traders might consider call spreads targeting $3,000 with 2 to 3 week expiration to capitalize on the current compression pattern. For Solana, maintain positions with stops below the 20-day EMA at $164. Add exposure on confirmed breakout above $185 or on pullbacks to the 170 to 175 range with volume support. Target $210 for initial profit taking, reassessing at that level for potential continuation to $220. Track institutional tokenization developments as fundamental catalysts that could accelerate price discovery. For Carano, maintain positions with stops below the 50-day SMA at 69 cents. Add on confirmed breakout above 86 cents with volume targeting $1.01 for profit taking. Given the recent weekend weakness, consider reduced position sizing and monitor development activity metrics as a fundamental indicator of ecosystem health. For XRP, maintain a neutral stance until a directional break occurs. Enter long positions on break above $2.65 with volume confirmation, targeting $3 initially and extending to $3.40 if momentum continues. Monitor XRP futures ETF flows as an institutional sentiment indicator and consider option strategies to capitalize on potential volatility expansion following the current compression. For SUI, maintain positions with stops below $3.50. Add on successful retests of the 20-day EMA at $3.73, targeting $4.25 for initial profit taking and extending to $5 on confirmed breakout. Given the recent security incident, risk management is paramount. Consider a 30-70 position sizing approach with the larger allocation contingent on technical confirmation. For both WorldCoin and TON, speculative positions with strict risk controls are appropriate given their emerging status. Focus on relative strength compared to sector peers and maintain smaller position sizes to manage volatility. For optimal portfolio construction, consider an allocation framework of 40% Bitcoin, 25% Ethereum, 25% established altcoins like Solana, XRP, and Carano, with the remaining 10% allocated to speculative positions in assets like SUI, WorldCoin, and TON. Implement position sizing inversely proportional to 30-day historical volatility and consider rebalancing if Bitcoin dominance moves outside the 60 to 65% range. As we conclude this week's analysis, remember that market structure remains fundamentally bullish despite short-term volatility. The combination of institutional adoption, technical strength in key assets, and evolving regulatory landscapes creates numerous opportunities for sophisticated traders. The coming week presents particularly compelling setups in Bitcoin following its all-time high retest, Ethereum as it approaches key resistance, and Solana with its improving relative strength metrics. Risk management remains paramount. The recent liquidation event triggered by Trump's comments demonstrates how quickly sentiment can shift in cryptocurrency markets. That's all for this week's analysis. For those implementing these strategies, remember that precision in execution often matters more than the strategy itself. Until next week, this is Boni, reminding you that in markets, as in life, those who combine rigorous analysis with disciplined execution invariably outperform. If you found value in today's analysis, make sure to subscribe to Boni's Life for weekly market breakdowns and trading strategies. Hit the notification bell to be alerted when our next episode drops, and leave your questions in the comments section below. Until next time, trade with precision.